Hello everyone, I am Vidya Modalagiri. I will be here to give you a brief description of all the network security features that we have added on our MCP 18.0 software release. So starting from the first, let's just see what other features we have. So the MCP 18.0 network security features can be divided into two: SSL and SSH. SSL stands for Secure Socket Layer, and SSH stands for Secure Shell. So when we go under SSL, we have these features implemented: the deprecation of multiple things, RC4, TLS10, TLS10 certificate chain option, and SHA-1 signed certificates. And other features that we have includes the connection wizard, the client authentication, and the support of multiple keys and certificates. So let's go in detail for each one of them. We have RC4 deprecation, so that basically involves the removal of RC4 based ciphers that is used for data encryption. And this is RC4 based ciphers will not be available on the 18.0 and above software releases and can be turned off when it's not required on our previous releases, as mentioned in the slide. And when it comes to troubleshooting, you can look at the status SSL command to see if it's available or not, and then you can turn it on and turn it off based on what software release the user is using. And you can see the relevant record log entries in the open record category. TLS1 deprecation is basically making the TLS SSL version TLS10 optional, since it's an older version. It's not really recommended. It's always suggested to use TLS12 and above. So this is an optional feature again, and it can be turned on and off as per your requirements. And as of now, until June 30th, the option is available by default, and it can be turned off by the user. And once after June 30th, the option will not be available by default, and the user will have to turn it on when needed. Again, it's recommended not to use 1.0 and is always preferred to use 1.2 and above. And when it comes to troubleshooting, you can always look through the SSL command. The status SSL command always lists the available ciphers and what SSL versions the system supports. And you can always see relevant entries in the log. And one such is an example that's displayed in the slide here. And there are other relevant messages that you would see if you're trying to make the connection using TLS10 based on what date the system is in and what version is being selected and whether it's available and not. These are the sample logs that you can see in the sum log. Certificate chain option. So when we make secure connections, the server sends out a certificate to prove the authenticity of the server, and these certificates can be a single certificate or a chain certificate. So we are just giving an option of supporting chain certificates in TLS10. And again, the user can turn it off and on as per their requirements, because when they try to connect to older systems, we do not support the chain certificates, and hence you can turn on the option to do so. This option is available in all of the streams mentioned here. Hello everyone. I'll be giving you a brief presentation on all of the additional network security features that we have added in our MCP 8.0 release. We can basically divide the two network security features as SSH and SSL. SSL stands for Secure Socket Layer and SSH is Secure Shell. And there are further divisions as to what features specifically we have implemented among the two types. And let's start with SSL. We have the deprecation of various features under SSL. Some of them include RC4 TLS10, TLS10 certificate chain option, and SHA-1 certificate. And other features that we've implemented includes client authentication, SSL Connection Wizard, and new additions that we have on supporting the key sizes, new key size for certificates on Security Center. So let's start with RC4 deprecation. As you can see on the technology updates, that RC4 cipher is not considered really secure for data encryption, and hence it is suggested not to use them anymore. But since if the customers have to connect to older systems which support RC4 ciphers, we do provide the option of using RC4 when required. So the ciphers are not available on 18.0 release at all, but in other older releases from 16, 17 versions, they are available, and you can turn the option on and off when required. It is again recommended not to do so, and it's always suggested to switch to newer and stronger ciphers for better security reasons. And the option can be turned on using the network TCP/IP option command. And when it comes to troubleshooting and debugging what the problem is when the connection fails, you can always start with looking at the status of the SSL. So the status SSL command lists all the ciphers that are available on the system. And if it doesn't show anything related to RC4, and if you're using any older version compared to 18.0 release, then you will be able to turn on the option and make use of the cipher. It is recommended not to use RC4 again, and please turn it off once you're done with using it. TLS10 deprecation is basically making the TLS10 version of SSL optional. Again, as per the standards, it's recommended to use TLS12 and above. And the option is given same as the way we did RC4. You can turn it on and off when required. So as of now, TLS10 option is available by default, and you can see it if you use the SSL status command. And once after June 30th on and after 2018, the option will not be available by default, and the user will have to turn it on whenever required. This option is also backward compatible. It's implemented on older features, older releases, 5.7.1 and 5.8.1 versions, and it's again recommended to use TLS12 and above. So when it comes to troubleshooting, the first thing that the user should be doing is use the SSL status command that gives enough information with respect to what ciphers are given in the system, present in the system, and what version of SSL are available on the system as well. And if that doesn't help you solve the issue, then you might as well look at the sum log, which gives you entries on what the connection was using, what cipher the connection was using, what version of SSL was it establishing the connection on, and all of that. And you should look for an entry in the sum log which says open record, as the one showed in the example here. And when it comes to TLS10, we have this specific magic number, June 30th, 2018. So if you're trying to make a connection before that date, the entries in this log would be different compared to the entries that you would see in a log after June 30th. So these are the sample log entries that you should be expecting when you're using or not using TLS10 version for SSL connections. Certificate chain option on TLS10. So it's basically a certificate format of how, and server usually gives out a certificate to prove its authenticity, and this certificate can either be a single certificate or a chain certificate. This option allows you to make and build and verify chain certificate on either systems, whether it being the client or the server. And this is an option that we're providing on TLS 1.0, and TLS 1.2 supports chain certificates. This option is also backward compatible. It's available in 5.7 and 5.8.1 releases, and you can use the same TCP/IP option command to turn it on and off. And with respect to troubleshooting, it's the same thing again. Use the option command to the option command usually lists out what are present, what are turned on, and what features are turned off. So just nwtcp/ip opt will let you know if the option is available or not. And Wireshark always helps. It's a network tracing tool that you can install on your system before you make the connection. Start the tracing turn on, and then make the connection. And then if based on the filtering and settings that you can edit on Wireshark, you can see all of the SSL handshake that's going on, and you can also see the certificate that's been provided by the server, what certificates are involved, if it's a chain certificate or not, what algorithms are used, what cipher is used. You can see all of those details in there. SHA-1 deprecation. So the certificates that the server provide during the SSL handshake, they are usually signed using digest algorithms, and one such being SHA-1. SHA-1 is considered not so safe and is recommended not to use them anymore. So customers, it's recommended that you don't use any certificate that is signed by SHA-1. It's better to use other certificates which are signed using SHA-56, SHA-512, or anything above. And since some of the older systems will not be able to support those upper versions of SHA algorithms, we are offering SHA-1 as an option, and you can use the option command to turn on and turn off this option. As of today, the SHA-1 feature will be turned off by default, saying that if a server is trying to give you, if MCP is our client system and any other server that you're trying to connect to provides a SHA-1 certificate, then the connection would fail as of today's date. And if you can turn on the option to make sure that you can accept all of the certificates that the server provides, which are signed by using SHA-1. And again, this feature is again backward compatible. It's available in our 5.7 and 5.8.1 releases as well. And it's always recommended to use to trust or go ahead with a certificate from a server that is signed using a digest algorithm, which is a higher version of SHA-1. And when it comes to troubleshooting, you can always look at the option command to see if the SHA-1 option is turned on or off, and you can turn it on as per your requirements. Again, as I said, Wireshark is an amazing tool to use for debugging, to understand more about what certificate is being used and everything else. And a sample entry that you would see in the sum log would look something like this when it comes to reading a certificate from a server. That would give you information about what the host name, who is it coming from, what are the other security the certificate features, and what algorithm is being used, on all of these information. And this could be another way of checking to see if you've received a SHA-1 based certificate or any other algorithm based certificate, and then you can turn it back on if it was turned off initially. And you can also see other log entries based on what kind of certificates are being used, and these are the sample log entries for different cases. Client authentication. So on any SSL connection, it's a must that server has to prove its authenticity. There's an option wherein the client can also authenticate himself, and that is client authentication. And MCP systems supports client authentication features with FTPS connections. And if MCP systems are to be the FTPS server, and they have these 4 ways of authenticating a client that are listed here, which is none, allowed, required, and desired. And these features are again backward compatible and can be used in 5.7.1 and 5.8.1 releases as well. When it comes to troubleshooting, please make sure that the FTP configuration file has the right type of client authentication feature that you're looking for, the settings when it comes to the 4 configuration ways of doing it. And again, Wireshark will help you track through the certificates of both either the server or the client that is being exchanged and all of the other details. So SSL Connection Wizard. Before you try to make any connection to any of the servers, you can look into their certificate and see if this is what you want. And then once you make the SSL Connection Wizard and you're happy with what certificate the server system is providing, then you can actually make the connection that you're wanting to know. This is another way you can check what certificate the service is sending before you make a connection for the SHA-1 feature that I already gave an example of. So to use this, please use the latest version of Security Center. It should be 18.0 release only. This feature is not available in older versions. So make sure that you've updated Security Center and Secure Transport to the latest version possible. And then this slide gives you how to make the connection in a step-by-step process and with all the images that you would want. So you choose the connection test and then connect to the system on the specified port. One thing to be importantly specified here is the SSL connection tester works only on implicit connections. So it is suggested to use port 990 and make sure that the server system who you're trying to connect to has an FTP server listening on port 990 for implicit connections. And once you give in this required details with respect to the IP address or the host name of the system, you can connect to it. And if the connection goes through, you should see an image something like this, where it will list up all the details of the certificate as to what algorithm it's being used, what's the validity of when is it going to start and when is it going to expire, and other details of the certificate. And if the certificate were to be an invalid certificate, if it were to be an expired certificate, you could see all of those information under the validation status. And this is how you can verify the certificate of a server. And if you're troubleshooting, make sure that you're not using port 21, because port 21 is used for explicit SSL connections only. And if you want to customize and make use of a port of your own for testing these connections, make sure you use port beyond number 8000 and make sure that the server is also listening to provide those certificates in the same exact port that you would want to use. So support for keys and certificates. As of for 18.0 release, we have included supporting RSA key sizes up to 4096 bits, and we are also deprecating the older RSA key size, which is 512, and we have the capability of the Security Center will be able to open certificates which are signed using SHA-384 and 512 algorithms, digest algorithms. So let's go with Secure Shell. Secure Shell is another way of secure connection that you can make to connect to remote systems for using file transfers. And these are the features that we have on 18.0 releases for SSH, and the one such being about AES CBC-based ciphers, and we have key scan updates and client APIs and other support for SFTP connections. So for SFTP client support, we have tested, and you can see the new SFTP clients that we can support for 18.0 release. You can look at the link provided below for the compatibility matrix to check if the system is supported or not. A sign-on would be required on this below link. For ASCBC deprecation is same as all of the options that I mentioned before. It's a cipher that is used for plain text encryption over SSH connections, and CBC based ciphers are considered not so secure anymore, and hence we are offering this as an option. And this feature is not available on older version. You have to use 18.0 or 18.0 software release only to be able to make use of this option. So by using this option, you can turn off these CBC based ciphers, and you can turn it back on when required. By default, the ciphers will be available to use. And for troubleshooting, the best way to do it is to do the status SSH command. It lists out all the ciphers that are being available on the system, and the TCP/IP option command will let you know if a AES-CBC option is turned on or off. And again, as same as SSL, you can look at the open record to see the entries of what specific cipher was being chosen in the connection. And same as the SSL, you can use Wireshark to see how the SSH handshake works, how the exchange happens, and what cipher is being chosen between the two systems. Client API is another tool to connect to remote systems using SSH, and we have some new features that you can look up for the API to connect to remote systems and execute some new commands. And the manual that is specified in the slide will give you more information and detailed explanation as to how you can make use of this API along with a sample program. SSH Key Scan is basically scanning for keys and certificates from the server before you actually make the SSH connections. And we have made some updates on our 18.0 release to support all of the version compatibility when it comes to OpenSSH and all of the standards specified in the required RFCs. They have been updated with all of those features.
We hope you found this presentation useful and informative. Unisys offers a comprehensive set of ClearPath Forward services to enrich the value of your ClearPath Forward applications, data, and systems. Please contact your Unisys representative for more information. Thank you for your continued use and support of Unisys ClearPath Forward systems. Good day.